Hi English 10. This video is going to discuss the first prompt in the discussion Montag's Dream that you were supposed to complete last week. I'm just going to go over some of the answers that were given that were not correct and then go over what the correct answer was. Obviously, I gave you points if you attempted to answer this question, even if you didn't answer correctly. This is really to clear up any confusion you might have had about this particular section of the book. So the prompt says, the text says that Montag hesitates to leave the river because he expects the Mechanical Hound and helicopters to find him. But there's something else that he fears, leaving society. Why is the river a comfort, and why does he hesitate to leave it? Some of you answered this prompt by talking about this part. He says, the dry smell of hay blowing from some distant field put Montag on the land. He remembered a farm he had visited when he was very young, one of the rare few times he discovered that somewhere behind the seven veils of unreality, beyond the walls of parlors and beyond the tin moat of the city, cows chewed grass and pigs sat in warm ponds at noon, and dogs barked after white sheep on a hill. So when you bring up this memory, this doesn't actually make the land seem all that formidable or scary. Instead, it makes the land kind of seem inviting. But that's not really what the prompt asked you. The prompt asked you, why is the river a comfort to him, and why does he hesitate to leave it? There's something that he fears about stepping onto that land outside of the city, about leaving the river. And so that's what I wanted you to discuss. Some of you guys did a great job answering this question. This is really for those of you who were confused about it and possibly answered it the wrong way. So I'll try to go over this pretty quickly so that this video stays pretty short. In literature, there is a term or phrase that is often used called green space. Green space refers to a setting in the story where the rules of the protagonist's society don't apply. Okay, so the protagonist grew up in a certain way. Montag grew up in a certain way in this society where you're not allowed to read books, where there are all of these specific rules. He knows how to play by those rules. That's why he was able to get out of society, because he was able to predict what it was that the firemen would do to try to catch him. He knew the rules of the Mechanical Hound and all of it. And so that's how he was able to construct a plan to get away and get into the river and throw everyone off of his track. Those were all rules that he knew. He was comfortable with them. That's why he was able to beat them. But now he's stepping out onto this land that is unknown to him. And none of the rules of the city apply to what's going on in the country. That's green space, okay? Green space doesn't have to be the country, though. It can be, a lot of times it does take place in nature, because you guys have been in nature. I mean, nature plays by its own rules. You've got wildlife and all kinds of stuff going on, things that can kill you out there. It's very wild. And so green space kind of is representative of an area of the story that is kind of wild and doesn't play by the rules. Movies a lot of times take advantage of green space in unconventional ways. So you might think about that the next time you're watching a movie or a TV show. Like, where is the character going that maybe doesn't quite play by the rules that they're used to. So anyway, for Montag, the green space in the book is the country, or this land outside of the city. And once he takes that first step out of the river, he's basically committed to staying in that place where he doesn't know the rules. So the river is a comfort to him because the river connects him to the city. And it also has kind of cleansed him of the scent that was keeping the Mechanical Hound on his tail, and has also freed him, I guess, of the confines of that society. But on the other side of that is this fear of having to learn a whole new set of rules. So just to kind of drive home the idea that it's the land that he is fearful of, and the river that is the comfort to him. I'm going to read just this really brief paragraph. It starts at the bottom of page 136 and goes to the top of page 137. So I believe that would be page 67 in the digital textbook, digital version of this book, if that's what you've been reading. It says, "He stepped from the river. The land rushed at him a tidal wave. He was crushed by the darkness and the look of the country and the million odors on a wind that iced his body. He fell back under the breaking curve of darkness and sound and smell, his ears roaring. He whirled. The stars poured over his sight like flaming meteors. He wanted to plunge in the river again and let it idle him safely on down somewhere. This dark land rising was like the day in his childhood, swimming, when from nowhere the largest wave in the history of remembering slammed him down in salt and mud and green darkness. Water burning mouth and nose, retching his stomach, screaming, too much water, too much land. Out of the black wall before him, a whisper, a shape, in the shape 2 eyes, the night looking at him, the forest seeing him, the hound. After all the running and rushing and sweating it out and half drowning, to come this far, work this hard, and think yourself safe and sigh with relief and come out on the land at last, only to find the hound." Montag gave one last agonized shout as if it were too much for any man. The shape exploded away, the eyes vanished, the leaf piles flew up in a dry shower. Montag was alone in the wilderness. So that there just kind of solidifies the idea that this space is new, it is wild, it is the green space of Fahrenheit 451, where none of Montag's rules really apply. So hopefully that helps clear that particular prompt up. And stay tuned for another video where I discuss the next prompt.